This is what happens when I'm out of my medicine. There's collateral damage, I gotta go. I'm sorry that I stole your car. Ain't got those tattoos on my arms that don't mean shit to me. Maybe you should pull the alarm, so I don't take it way too far. Die before I'm 23. I'm sorry, Mom. 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 I'm sorry, Sitting at the same old workplace. What's the point of this chase? To just bite our old tail. Wishing that something would change, that we could turn back the page and live like our favorite fairy tales. So a love so free in a world of our fantasies, flying on dragons through sky-high cities. These are childhood dreams. It's how we used to be when we were kings and queens in our childhood dreams. Oh, 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 our childhood dreams. Feeling, I feel so lightweight when I think back to those days, but then we went our own ways. I'm thinking about what needs to change, that we could turn back the page and live like our favorite fairy tales. So a love so free in a world of our fantasies, digging up treasures and sailing across the sea. These are childhood dreams. It's how we used to be when we were kings and queens in our childhood dreams. Oh, 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 our childhood dreams. Our childhood dreams, it's how it used to be when we were kings and queens in our childhood dreams.
Every weekend is the same. I'm the one you try to claim. Yeah, I already know about your game, but I'm not the one to sit around and be played. Call me up with no shame. All your words sound the same. Yeah, I already know about your game, but I'm not the one to sit around and be played. If you come around just to play me, don't bother, cause you ain't overdue. Don't even try to convince me. Don't bother, cause now I see you through. If you come around just to play me,
Good evening, everyone, and welcome along to TTML Division 1. We are here for Season 4. How good does that sound? We are here for round 1 of the Championship as we take in the British Grand Prix from the Silverstone International Circuit. My name is James Hay, going to be taking you through the stream, as always, on a Tuesday night. And joining me in the commentary box, it is Mr. Luke Etheridge. Luke, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thanks. Good evening, James. Good evening, everyone that's watching. It isn't a Tuesday night without some TTML action, and we're at the home of the very first F1 race, of course, way back in May 1950, I should say, sorry. Season started at the British Grand Prix at Silverstone. The track's changed quite a lot over the years. It's still extremely high speed, and it should still provide plenty of exciting action.
Yeah, I was going to say, this track hasn't been created in 1930 by the time that this Grand Prix would have been run. But Season 4, of course, awaiting us out on track. Silverstone, of course, playing host to round 1 of the Championship. And you'll be wondering at this stage who on earth you are going to be seeing out on track. Well, let me get that up for you. We have, in the Mercedes, Lando and Noon. We have in the Ferrari, Mashiro and Scuba. In the Red Bull is Vienna and Kumblai. Colsbury and Armadi in the McLaren, with Lemon and Nicholas in the Racing Point. Jow Jow and Yul Melmat, already got that wrong, they're in the Alfa Romeo. In the Renault is Laser and Bullet Boy. In the Haas, Sorensen and Miklas for Team IFR. Volbeek and Hyper in the AlphaTauri, and in the Williams it is the defending champion Perpetuum and Dobby. And looking at that lineup, Luke, really, really good to see a lot of returning faces here. Three former champions on the grid, 2 current in Scuba and in Perpetuum. Who strikes out at you as possibly getting off to a great start this season?
I think, obviously, when you look at how last season went, especially towards the end of last season, you can't look too far, I don't think, between Perpetuum and Jow Jow. I'd expect those to be at the front or near the front throughout the entire season. Scuba, as you said, is a reigning champion, so maybe he's coming in with some good form as well. But I think a team that could really do some decent stuff, both of the Renaults, Laser and Bullet Boy, on their day, can definitely challenge for podiums and win. So maybe they'll be towards the front of the order. We saw extremely close qualifyings last season. I'm expecting the same again. I think we've got the names, like we said, like your Perpetuum, your Jow Jow, that you know will be near the front, but there'll probably be a few others that throughout the season will develop and might just be able to sneak a championship.
Yeah, it is going to be really interesting to see, of course, how Division 1 pans out over the next 10 rounds, of course. We go from Britain and end in Singapore, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Reserve, Santeri, Combi, Salmon Pike, Moneymon Jr. and Tom, just to clarify on the reserves as well. You might be seeing a couple of them out on track. It is really good at this point of the season, I think, because we've got no driver standings, we've got no constructor standings. Everyone is starting fresh. And around a track like Silverstone, it is going to be fantastic to watch the action, of course, unfold out on track. And hopefully we're going to be seeing some really good action, of course, from these guys out on track. And looking at our championships from last season, of course, in Division 1, Perpetuum is a 2-time champ and the current champion from Season 3. Medium Pilot, of course, wrapped it up in Season 2. He has got 1 title to his name, of course. Medium Pilot not returning for this season in Division 1. But Perpetuum, just speak about last season, because him and Medium Pilot had a really good battle throughout the season, and it came down pretty much to the final 2 rounds of the season where, in the end, Perpetuum, understandably so, got the championship because Medium Pilot didn't turn up.
Yeah, definitely. It was looking like a fantastic battle between them up until that point. Perpetuum, apart from that middle period of like 3 races halfway through the season where he just sort of went off the boil, was fantastically consistent, and Medium Pilot was showing that same level as well. And then towards the last half of the season when Jow Jow joined the league, he was another one who was there consistently on the podium. I think that's why we've said them 2 names as 2 of the drivers to watch out for this time around. And with everyone scoring points here in TTML, if you're not familiar, it is the top 19. So unless you get a race where everyone manages to get to the end, pretty much as long as you get to the checkered flag, you're almost guaranteed some points. You really do need that consistency, and you might remember it was quite a long time into the season before Perpetuum actually won a race, but he was constantly picking up podiums, and that might be what gets him the title this year. If he can just keep consistent, the only slight weakness I'd say about Perpetuum is he is prone to picking up a couple of penalties, and if there's any races with late safety cars, that might drag him further down the order.
Yeah, it could drag them down further the order for sure, but I think in terms of the whole respect of things out on track, it should be looking like one of our most competitive seasons here in Division 1. everyone probably going to be around, I would say, a second of each other within qualifying. Qualifying, I think, slightly delayed. We are waiting for a couple of drivers still to join into the lobby, but that gives us a really good insight, actually, to have a look at the track map in question. And of course, it is Silverstone. We know this track off by heart. I'm not going to bore you with the details of every single corner around this track, so don't worry about that. 5.8 kilometres in length, 3.6 miles around an old airfield, and the only track actually here in Britain that takes in two counties, Buckinghamshire and Northamptonshire.
Yeah, I think that's why we ended up with a 70th anniversary Grand Prix rather than being named off the region. Because if you called it the Northamptonshire / Buckinghamshire Grand Prix, it doesn't really roll off the tongue, but neither does Made in Italy and Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. So who knows about the naming systems of Formula 1 races, but we are just about getting ready for qualifying. Qualifying is fairly important around this circuit. There are two DRS zones, as you mentioned, but it's not the easiest to overtake because they both go into fairly medium speed corners, so it's not like there's massive braking zones.
Yeah, you've got to get a really good lap in here, of course, and there's plenty of invalidation points out on track as well. We'll come on to that, of course, as we go straight in towards qualifying. But without further ado, get on the edge of the seat, get the popcorn at the ready. We're about to get going. Let's get started. Let's go into qualifying. Welcome along, everyone, for the first time this season to TTML Season 4. We are here for round 1 of the championship as we take in the British Grand Prix from the Silverstone International Circuit. Let's have a look at the 3 tyre compounds that are available to the guys out on track. Those are the softs, mediums and the hards, C3, C2 and C1 compound of tyres. And of course, if it's wet, we have also got the intermediate and the wet compound of tyres possibly out on track. My name is James Head, of course. Luke Etheridge joining me alongside in the commentary box. And what I'm sure is what is going to be a fantastic Grand Prix out on track. 5.8 kilometres in length, 3.6 miles, taking around 18 turns with 2 DRS zones. One down the Wellington Straight and one down the Hanger Straight, down in towards Stowe. There is a lot of overtaking opportunities around this track, and this should be one of the closest qualifying sessions of the season so far. As now we get in towards qualifying, of course, and we see, beautifully, a very rare sight that we see normally here in Britain, blue skies and sunshine.
Yeah, judging by the last few days of weather in Britain, that probably means it's about 5 degrees centigrade out on track. Just because it's warm in Britain, just because it's clear in Britain, I should say, doesn't mean that it is warm. But yes, that will be a relief for all of the drivers. Obviously, it makes your setup a bit easier as well if it's constant between warm weather conditions, and if it is dry for the qualifying and maybe wet for the race, things could get slightly awkward with how do you compromise your qualifying session versus the race, because we always say in real life when that happens, there's no points given on the Saturday, there's no points for qualifying. Here in TTML, there is, of course, there is 2 extra points that you can get for qualifying, which could be all important if things are really close at the end of the season. I think last year, 3rd place between Verstappen and Matthias actually ended up tied, just to give you a clue at how close things can be. So drivers will be hoping to get pole position. Hopefully, though, we do get a dry race.
Yeah, well, Vapor Hyper LN4 is now out on track. Very big mouthful to say. We'll call them Hyper, though, in commentary. Outlap now coming through Brooklands, and the German will be hoping for a very good debut result here. Of course, it's Silverstone. Only 14 drivers out on track, so that means a maximum of 5 points can be picked up by these guys out on track, and that's before you count in the 2 points for pole position and the 1 point for the fastest lap as well. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this all gets on. But Vapor Hyper, of course, here out on track. It is debut season here in Season 4, if I'm not mistaken. And how do you expect him to take around this lap here at Silverstone?
Ooh, it's I'm going to be honest, and I think I say this every time I commentate on Silverstone, and those who remember Formula 1 just over 10 years ago, I preferred the old Silverstone circuit where you headed left at Abbey into the bridge corner. It is still, though, a very challenging circuit, and as you said, track limits are always ever present. So maybe on this first lap you might just be better off, especially seeing as there's not too many drivers, might just be better off trying to get a banker lap time in rather than going all out first thing.
Well, let's have a look then. Hyper now coming across the line to start us off on a lap. 18 turns awaiting him out on track. Now through Abbey, through Farm, and then in towards Village section at turn 3. There's William just came out the pit lane just ahead of him. So now comes through turn 3, and then in towards the Loop section at turn 4. And then through a very famous corner out on track, Aintree through turn 5. Of course, the British Grand Prix used to be held at Aintree Racecourse in Liverpool, now playing host, of course, to the Grand National, which took place on Saturday. 26.9 through the first sector from Hyper through the first sector, so looking very good indeed. In fact, it's 26.7, so even quicker than that, coming through in towards Brooklands, then through Luffield, and now on the exit towards Wooker. Now down the old pit straight, he's got the Williams just in front of him, could give him a little bit of tow running up in towards Cops. Now comes through Cops now as he runs now down in towards Maggots and Beckett. It's looking like a very competitive lap, but Williams gets off to the right hand side. A little bit of lawn mowing going on there, so he now comes through Maggots, through Beckett, and on the exit of Chapel. Been a very consistent lap so far from the German, and it's a 101.3 through the middle sector, 34.5 via Tass as he now comes up in towards Stowe at turn 15. Been a very competitive lap from Hyper out on track, and he'll be hoping to try and lay it up as he runs wide, coming through turn 15, and that's an invalidation straight off the bat, and Hyper is into the pit lane, and that is his lap over and done with.
Yeah, it is such a shame, but Stowe is one of those corners where you do see some quite common invalidations out of everyone else that has gone out on track at the moment. I've just gone on board with Sorensen. He's set a 26.6 in the first sector, as did Zhao Zhao. So two IFR drivers, well, two of the three IFR drivers, I should say, looking very consistent and very close to each other. And it's the other one we haven't mentioned, Mikras, that goes fastest on the moment on a 124.228. Zhao Zhao, first man underneath the 123s. He's setting his stall out early.
Yeah, setting the stall out very early indeed, of course, playing host to the Danes here. We're having a bit of a Danish invasion, possibly in Division 1, as now Sorensen comes out through Club in towards for a final corner, comes across the line, and he actually goes top. So Sorensen with a 123.8 goes ahead of Zhao Zhao. Very good lap there by Sorensen. And before the stream, I made a very wild prediction saying that Zhao Zhao is going to win the championship. No pressure, Zhao Zhao. And I said Sorensen might be the one to look out for. Look what's happened. First and second in qualifying so far.
Yeah, that's a very good prediction, James. Normally commentators' curses are a thing, but maybe you've got this spot on, or maybe 5 minutes into the first qualifying session of a 10-race season. It's a bit early to call things, but we'll just have to obviously wait and see how things go with these drivers. I think Perpetuum, I think he was another one to invalidate his lap as well, which is a shame for him. Kuhn Bleisch comes across the line. He goes into fourth, so there's a bit of a gap actually between the top two and the next two drivers, and then got Laser a bit further back on a 124.7. Volbeek, obviously, he's just went for a second warm-up lap, and I think now we might see a bit more from him.
Yeah, Dobby's just broken into the 124s as well, 124.1. He goes on board with Carlsbury coming out through the final corner now. In that papaya called a McLaren, comes across the line at a 24.3 from the Finn out on track. As he'll flag through sector 1, it might be just somebody coming out the pit lane. I'm a D preparing up for his lap there. Mashiro on a lap, former Division 2 champion, of course, in Season 2. Now stepping up into the big leagues once again for his second season in Division 1 as he now comes through Cops in the Ferrari. Very good car, of course, to choose from. And Mashiro now coming in towards Maggots, and then through Beckett we see him pull with the halo cam as we now come through here, and now in towards Chapel, and on the exit running now through the middle sector split, and Mashiro actually not looking too bad. It's a 34.8 through the middle sector from Mashiro, so he's there or thereabouts in terms of his lap. Car number 30, of course, out on track. He now comes through turn number 15 at Stowe, in towards Vale, and then in towards Club, of course. Vettel and Verstappen making contact there back in 2018. So Mashiro now comes round through the final quarter, comes across the line. The Japanese man will go into ninth for the 125 flat. Not really a competitive lap there at all from Mashiro, but Lando was coming through the exit of the Cops in towards Maggots and Beckett's.
Yeah, he is now. We'll see what he can do, because he was such a fantastic driver for a couple of races last season. And, that's a terrible line through Chapel. We did see it, obviously, in the British Grand Prix and the 70th anniversary Grand Prix last year. A lot of drivers were putting two wheels on the grass at Chapel just to sort of cut that corner and shave a bit of lap time off. You don't want to be doing that. He has invalidated his lap time, and I wonder if he'll be coming into the pits. Has recently left the XL team, so we'll wonder if he changes what team name he's going to be at anytime soon.
Yeah, he is actually preparing up for another lap by the looks. So Lando now going on for another lap. Well, right on board though with Ahmed D, who's coming through Cops. He's on a set of medium compound tyres there out on track, the Scotsman, as he now comes through with a 34.4 through the middle sector. So going to be clear than Mashiro, possibly ahead of Laser at this point as well. Ahmed D now coming through the final corner, comes across the line. Wow, goes fourth, and that my task system, or my graphics on the left-hand side, told me he was on a set of mediums. He wasn't, he was on a set of softs, and he goes fourth.
Yeah, great lap there from Imadi, fourth position. Very good Very good job from him, 124.186. Another one driver who, on occasion, showed some good performances. Obviously got that fantastic podium. I think it was the last race of the season where he managed to make his tyres last a lot longer than anyone else. Tyre management, yes, it is extremely high speed around Silverstone, but because Pirelli bring their three hardest tyres to this race, it's not really a problem. It should be a straightforward soft-medium race for all these drivers. I do wonder if anyone will try and go on the mediums, seeing as we have got a bit of a reduced grid today, though.
Hyper goes up to 7th, 124.3, and yeah, it will be interesting to see, of course, if anybody decides to go on that different companion time. On board with the Perpetuum, though, 34.3 through the middle sector from the German, the defending champ here, coming through Vale, and then in towards Club. One's on the curb slightly, coming out of turn 18. Perpetuum's lap time is 124 flat, and he goes third ahead of his teammate Dobby, who's just in behind him, only a tenth of a second off him. So very good lap there by Dobby. But Sorensen, that man there, who's now preparing up for another lap here at Silverstone, we're pretty much halfway through qualifying. Sorensen out on top, Jai second, Perpetuum in third at this stage.
Yeah, we've just had some information from Laser, which I think blows my it'll be a straightforward soft-medium strategy out the window. It's going to be a wet race, so this might explain some of the disparities that we have got in qualifying times at the moment. Have a few of those lower down the order gone for more of a wet setup, knowing that they'll have that more comfortable grip. The problem with that is, we said it's not easy to overtake here in the dry. Obviously, if you've not got DRS when it starts raining, again, it is even tougher to get an overtake done around here. So, yes, you might be better suited in terms of race pace if you're in any clear air to use it.
Jajo purple through the first sector. That now blows my mind, to be honest, that we're getting a wet race. Welcome to Britain, everyone. Jajo now coming through Maggots and then Beckett and then through Chapel. A very quick middle sector by the looks here as well. And then once again he's purple. 34.2 from Jajo. Responding though, Sorensen 26.6 through the first sector. 7 thousandths off Jajo's first sector out on track. And this could be IFR 1-2 once again. Sorensen and Jaja both on laps. Perpetuum into the pit lane. Miklas goes into third as well. So IFR now 1-2-3 out on track as Jaja comes around the final corner, comes across the line, improves up to 23.7. But what is Sorensen doing through the middle sector? 34.3. He's actually down on his middle sector. So I don't think this could be an improvement actually from Sorensen unless he puts in a really good final sector here. Coming through Stowe and then on running toward Vale and then towards Club. Breaks just off the 100-metre board. Gets the car turned in, now through Vale, then in towards Club corner at turn 18, comes across the line. Has he found the time? No, he improved, 123.826, he improved. It's fastest in the middle, fastest in the first, middle sector, through all the way.
Yeah, I did, and I wonder if that is Sorensen maybe suggesting that. Well, actually, no, because the hangar straight's in the final sector, isn't it, most of it? So I'm trying to work out if there are any clues to what setups the drivers are using by their different times at the moment. Laser's coming through the final sector. He's found a bit of time there. Finds a quarter of a second. Only gets him up into 10th position for now. Kuhn Blythe goes up into the top 5. Let's see what Scuba's doing. He's just coming around Club and Vale at this moment in time. He's now going to head towards the line in the Ferrari. He gets his way up into the top 8. And obviously, if it is going to be a wet race, drivers in the top 10 are going to have the free choice of tyres as well.
Yeah, of course, Scuba going 8th with a 124.310, 200th of a second ahead of Hyper. There's Armour D, who I've accidentally got on board with. He's just preparing up for his lap there in the McLaren. Dobby, I believe, has just started up on a lap as well. He's coming through the middle sector and not looking too bad. 26.7 through the first sector. Now coming through Stowe at turn 9 in the Williams. Jajo out on top, Sorensen second, Miklas in third. Just a brief look at the tyres as well, in terms of the weather, I should say. Air temperature 21 degrees, track temperature 29 degrees out on track. So these guys really beginning to feel the wear on these tyres as they go through their laps. Again, green in the middle sector, I should say, from Dobby, 34.3, so he's there or thereabouts. Could be going quicker than Carsbury at this stage. Looking at Carsbury's lap, he really dropped in that middle sector, so Dobby will be looking to try and get ahead of him. Kuhn Bly as well, only a tenth of a second. Bit of a lock up there in toward Vale, now in towards Club through turn 18. Dobby comes across the line, and he goes third, 23.9. And Dobby looks like he's got a lot of pace about him so far this season.
Yeah, it's early days, but he's looking very good and obviously beating Perpetuum, but I don't think we would have expected that. Another driver who's showing a lot of pace at the moment is Lando. He was obviously not having set a time, personal best in the first and second sector, but this time could challenge those towards the top of the order. I'm expecting the Mercedes to get his way into the 1 minute 23s here as he comes around the Vale chicane into Club, just runs a bit wide coming through Vale. That could cost him slightly. It's still a very decent lap time, 1:24.068, puts the sole Mercedes driver into 6th.
Yeah, 124's out on track, of course, from all of these guys, and I think all of these guys, Mick Perfectum, Lando and Kumbla, like the sound of a 124 flat because they're all separated by just over 600ths of a second out on track. Carlsbury is just back into the pit lane. So you see, I think it was Ima D going up into 4th, 23.9 from Ima D. So the next one to go into the 123s. Very close qualifying session in here so far, 1.3 seconds separating the top 13. Full Beak's lap, you can probably discount at 158.7, really does not reflect his pace here in Division 1. I think he's probably going for the alternate strategy if it's going to be a wet start to the race.
Yeah, definitely. I think he just had a bit of a slower lap and then has obviously invalidated his second run. So he'd want to at least set another time, but with there only being 14 cars, I don't think he'll be too bothered. Perpetuum, I've just gone on board with at the moment. He's not finding loads of time at the moment. He is improving. He is a 10th up on his personal best, so could challenge where his teammate is, but he's going to need a fantastic final sector if he wants to get onto the front row of the grid.
Yeah, Hyper just coming in front of him as well, coming through Vale and then towards Club. Let's see, as the German comes across the line, he goes 10th, he improves ahead of Scuba. Let's see what Perpetuum is doing. Is he responding? Yes, goes 4th, 23.945 now, like in everyone the 23s, it seems. Dobby, Perpetuum and Armadine now within the 123.9 to 800ths of a second, separating those three drivers out on track. But with 3 minutes and 45 seconds to go, Jajo out on top, Sorensen second, Dobby in third, Perpetuum in fourth, and Armadine in fifth. It looks to me as if the IFR boys, Jajo and Sorensen at the minute, look like they've got the answers to pretty much every question that the other guys throw at them. But just in terms of this qualifying session so far, Perpetuum down in fourth, championship, of course, defending champion. Scuba defending champion in Division 2, 24.3. Is that the gap, really, we're seeing possibly this season between a comparison to Division 1 and Division 2?
You never know. I mean, qualifying is a completely different skill. Qualifying and the race, you can be as fantastic as you like over one lap. It's have you got that consistency over the full race distance, and I find it's usually that which is the difference between those that are at the top and those like Scuba, who are still absolutely fantastic drivers, but probably more going to be in the midfield this season. It's doing it time and time and time again, getting it right, doing it while keeping clean as well. Over one lap, I've seen drivers in other leagues that are in a lot lower divisions than those in the top league get within half a second over one lap, but it's a one-off, not something that they could just pull out the bag consistently.
Yeah, just seeing in the chat as well within Discord, Salmon Pike, who was a reserve here, he decided, well, he didn't arrive on time, basically. He missed his opportunity and he hasn't arrived on time, and he's a little bit complaining. Now, I can be very forgiving of that. He did arrive a couple of minutes late, but there's no joining in qualifying. It can cause glitches, of course. Fullbeak now coming through the final corner, right again on board of a lap in the AlphaTauri as we come on board. 5.8 kilometre circuit here at Silverstone, of course, through the 18 turns and now through Abbey, through Farm. And then, when he gets there, in towards Village, I so expect these cars to go quicker with my commentary, but they really don't, as they now come through in towards the Village, then in towards the loop section, and now out of Aintree as they come now down the Wellington Straight. Will be on a very good first sector so far, of course, at 58.7. Really not a valid lap time from him out on track. To 26.8, it seems, through the first sector from Volbeek. So very good first sector there from the Dutchman. And 26.7 as it shows on the task. Volbeek now coming through left field, spins the car round. Good recovery. How did he keep that going? I do not know. Volbeek clearly got more car control than me, and it looks like he's backed off this lap.
Yeah, he has. Not surprised, really. He has got enough time to get another lap. I think he took off the ERS as well, but that was a fantastic save through there. That suggests to me that he's not got as much downforce as you would like, and if it is going to rain, you're going to want a hell of a lot more than that. So Volby, interesting to see what he's going to do in this race, because we've not seen anything representative from him at the moment. Laser, who was his teammate last year, they were both in the McLaren. He's now coming through he's just come past for sector 1 point at this moment in time, and he's a couple of hundredths up. He's going to need to find quite a lot of time, though, to get his way into the top 10. Quarter of a second behind Hyper at the moment.
Yeah, Jajo's fastest in the first sector, 26.6. and that's nearly been better by Sorensen as well. But one ball with later at this moment in time, 124.4. Currently 7/10 off the lead here in qualifying as he now comes through the middle sector split. Looking through the middle sector split to 34.4. So good lap time there in the middle sector by Laser, and a good sector time I should say, as he now comes through in towards Stowe, not Cops. Stowe through 10:15, then in towards Vale and in towards Club, and Laser will be laying this all on the line. We'll run above with Jajo in just a second, but Laser now around the final corner. Beautiful wing cam as we now come through, cross the line, and Laser does improve on his time at 124.3. What is Jajo doing on his lap? 34.2 through the middle sector. It's actually been bettered slightly by Sorensen, just in behind him out on track, but Jajo now comes across the line. Is he going to go top? Yes! 23.672. Is Sorensen responding in behind though? Sorensen now going to try and help with Miklas going up into third for now. Sorensen comes across the line, and it's a 23.7, doesn't improve to get the lead of the qualifying session so far. Amadi is on a lap. Lando was on a lap as well. We're trying to flick through to see who's furthest on. Kumbla is one of the most furthest on, I think, out on track. Purple in the first sector, by the way, for Carlsbury. Watch out for that as he goes through his lap. Kumbla now coming through the final couple of corners through Vale and in towards Club, and Kumbla now comes across the line and he improves and he's up into 6th, 23.950 out on track. Amadi is invalidated coming down the hanger straight. There's another McLaren off with Carlsbury, and I think he's invalidated as well. Lando now on a lap, coming through in towards the final couple of corners out on track. Volbeek has improved up into 11th as well. Scuba will be hoping to try and improve. I think he's behind Lando out on track, or just ahead of him possibly out on track. Comes across the line, does Scuba, and he goes 10th, 24.1. Lando across the line, and he goes 3rd. Really good improvement there by Lando, 23.8. I think I'm very comfortable to say that's the end of qualifying. Jajo out on top, Sorensen in 2nd, and Lando in 3rd, as Laser actually coming through the final corner is invalid. That is the end of qualifying, as I say. Jajo out on top, Sorensen 2nd, IFR 1-2, Lando in 3rd.
Yeah, fantastic lap by both of those IFR. In fact, all three of the IFR drivers. Mikras just dropping a bit further off, but still 4th position. A very good qualifying from him. I was on board with Dobby. He had a chance to maybe get himself into 3rd position. Just ran wide a bit through Vale, invalidated his lap, and that running wide anyway had cost him some time. But he'll be fairly happy to be ahead of the reigning champion at this moment in time. And let's not forget, last season, Perpetuum started off the season with 3 consecutive pole positions. So his race pace was obviously fantastic to get him the championship, but his qualifying was equally impressive, especially in the early part of the season. This is going to be a very interesting grid, and let's not forget, rain is forecast for this race. We don't know how heavy it's going to be. Is it going to be intermediates? Is it going to be full wets? Is it going to dry up at any point? I can't wait.
Yeah, Laser mentioned in the comments section there as well, some will be using wet setups, some dry. So that's what we've probably seen in terms of the qualifying. I would say, though, a majority of them have used dry setups rather than wet setups. Out on track, can't say 14 people yet. It is a shame for round 1 of the season. But Jajo out on top, Sorensen in 2nd. It's an all-Danish affair for the front row of the grid. Lando in 3rd with Mikras in 4th. IFR 1st, 2nd and 4th. I think Falk will be very happy with that. Dobby in 5th with Perpetuum in 6th, and all Williams 3rd row of the grid. Kumbla and Imadi 7th and 8th with Carlsbury and Scuba on the 5th row of the grid, 9th and 10th. Top 10 separated by less than 5/10 of a second. Hyper in 11th with Volbeek in 12th. The 2 Alpha Tauris. Later and Mashiro starting on the 7th row of the grid, and that is our field. Mashiro 1.2 seconds off the best, and apparently he said in the Discord that was his personal best.
That'd be a bit scary, that anyone whose personal best is a 124 ends up half a second off the nearest car. I wonder if there's a bit of kiddom with all of that, or maybe he's just not done a lot of practice around this circuit. We'll have to wait and see how he does in the race, because he was one of those drivers last season that showed a lot of form and didn't quite get things right when it came to the race. I think it was Recon was his teammate last season when they were both at Shazoo, and for whatever reason it just wouldn't come together for the race. Hopefully everyone has got their umbrellas though, because I can tell you it is absolutely throwing it down at Silverstone at this moment in time. This could well be the full wet tyres.
It could well be the full wet tyres indeed. Of course, we'll get to that, of course, in just a second. Let's have a look then at the track map once again in question. Andy has just popped into the comment section. In fact, I'll read out his comment now. Graphics are always on fire. Evening, James, Luke and Tom. Hope you're all keeping well. We are all keeping very well, and I hope you are going to be enjoying this racing out on track. Our former head commentator, of course, Andy Campbell. 5.8 kilometres in length, though, lap distance. Silverstone Circuit, Silverstone International Circuit, to give it its full title. 2D DRS zones. Don't think we'll be using the DRS in this weather, I've got to be honest. The 18 turns, of course, awaiting the drivers out on track. Dynamic weather, well and truly proved here at Silverstone, and it wouldn't be British weather without a bit of rain.
No, definitely. I think we were all expecting at some point during Silverstone you're going to have some dark clouds or some rain. It does look like full wet tyres for all of the drivers. Now, it's probably going to mean this. If it stays like this should be a fairly straightforward one-stop race. And the only difference, as you'll see, is how early do some of them come in. Maybe just before halfway, because obviously you'll be putting less wear on in the race as the tyres wear out. Maybe we are going to see some weather changes. Who knows how it's going to go. Might get a bit of a clue as to the different setups everyone's gone for as well.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see, of course, how everyone is going to fare in this 26th lap race around here at Silverstone. Lap times normally around here, around the 1:28 mark within the race on average. But in these wet conditions, throw onto that an extra 15-20 seconds and you'll be looking at like 1:45 sort of average lap time around here. There's the predicted pit stop strategy just came up. As you say, one stop could be the case. Lap 13 to 25, lap 8 to 25 on a set of wet compounded tyres. I don't know why on earth the AWS graphic would say that. Lap 8 to 25, they must be absolutely mad if anybody's going to get to the end on a two-stop strategy if they're pitting in lap 25 and going two-stop. Yeah, really doesn't work. Zhao Zhao though out of top, Sorensen in second, Lando in third, and Zhao Zhao, we have seen him so many times this season, and indeed in other leagues as well, which I commentate on him. Zhao Zhao is the king of the start. Surely there's going to be no difference here tonight.
No, and you think, if you're normally pretty good at the start, what's he going to be like in these wet conditions? He should just be able to find the traction. Weather conditions, 21 degrees centigrade. I would say, have Codemasters ever been to England? But they're based in England. I've never seen it rain this hard and been anywhere near 21 degrees centigrade, if I'm being honest. But that is the weather that the drivers have got. And with it being fairly warm, they are going to have to come into the pits. Theoretically, it is legal to do a no-stop race in wet conditions. It's only in the dries where you are forced to do a pit stop to change to a different compound of tyre. But with it being so warm, with the pace these cars have got, I think they are all going to have to come into the pits. Like I said, probably some point around lap 11, lap 12, I think we'll see a few cars starting to come in.
Yeah, I would imagine so. We may see a bit of a transition period as well, maybe to the inters later on in the race, maybe even to full dries by the end. Who knows? We are getting underway then very soon indeed. I just want to point out as well, 24-degree track temperature. Not often you see the track temperature so close to the air temperature out on track. Quickly, Luke, before we begin, who's your top three?
I'm going to go for Zhao Zhao, Sorensen and Perpetuum.
Very, very interesting top three as we now are about to get going for the first time this season. There is the view from the camera as we now go with the 5 red lights for Season 4, Division 1 here in TTML. And it's lights out and away we go. Zhao Zhao gets a very good start. Sorensen is bogged down off the start and has got no response. Zhao Zhao already leads. Lando's going around the outside of Abbey, trying on Sorensen, but he's not around the outside of him. Could get around the outside in towards Village. He's on the inside line. Now the Mercedes and the Haskell side by side. Running down in towards Village, runs a little bit wide. Does Lando, forces Sorensen out wide. But now Zhao Zhao leads. Sorensen in second. Lando in third. Mick Russ in fourth. Perpetuum in fifth. Kumbly up a position, passing Scuba. A little bit of contact further down the field, but everyone pretty much clean. Zhao Zhao, king of the start, 1.4 seconds clear early on. Lando, though, really pressurising Sorensen. Carlsbury's right on the back of Perpetuum, as well the Finn, right on the back of the German, in front of him out on track, the defending champ, of course, caught up. But I tell you what, Zhao Zhao has already got a 1.5 second lead. 1.7 seconds make that, and this is an unreal start from Zhao Zhao.
Has he got Benetton's 1994 CP engine control unit in that car with some secret launch control? He's absolutely shot off the line. Lando's in third position, all over the back of Sorensen. Perpetuum very close to the back of Mick Russ. And in this spray, you can make it slightly lighter depending on what different cameras you use. It is pretty awful at this moment in time when you're right behind a car in front. So you're going to want to be in the slipstream, but you're going to want to pull out just before the braking zone, just sort of to make sure that you can see things. Kumbly getting pretty close to Imady on the outside into Stowe. This is going to be a very brave move on lap 1 of the race, and it might give Scuba a chance to go down the inside as well. There's a bit of contact between the two of them, and that allows Laser to work his way up into the top 10. Everyone, though, has got through the first lap. I was going to say everyone's got through it fairly cleanly, but there we've got Viper Hayden coming into the pits.
Yeah, Hayden, you're calling them. I'll go with that. Hayden into the pit lane then, on a full set of wet compound tyres. 143.4 from Jojo leading the way. We're on board with Miklas. I don't know why we're on board with him. Graphics glitching to the left-hand side, typically in true Codemasters style. But Jojo now coming through Village and then toward the loop once again. And he's got a 1.9 second lead over Sorensen. You can see how wet this rain is actually beginning to really fall onto the driver's visor. We see on board with Lando right on the back of Sorensen. You can hardly see him just ahead of him. It's very poor visibility when running the slipstream of the car just ahead of you. And the Sorensen leads in toward Brooklyn to second position. Jojo leads the way out on track. 2.2 seconds from Sorensen second. Lando in third. Miklas has dropped off by about a second on the back of Lando. Perpetuum is in fifth. That's not 1.3 seconds the gap. I trust you. Goldsbury there in sixth as well. But I'll tell you what, Lando right on the back of Sorensen running in towards Cops. Is he going to try possibly down in towards Stowe?
I think you've got to, because you want to be in clear air in this condition. That's what's helping Zhao Zhao, and will also be helping Hyper now at the back of the field, is that they've not got any cars anywhere near the front of them. They've just got a clear visor. They can just get away. The downside of that is you're always the first on the scene of the conditions, especially if they are slightly changeable. So you can't follow the car in front to decide where your braking points are going to be, where you're going to put on the throttle as well. So there's upsides and downsides, but if I was Lando, I'd definitely be wanting to get ahead of this Haas, not just to try and obviously catch up to Zhao Zhao, just to get some clear air.
Yeah, Lando right on the back of Sorensen to be hoping to try and get past very soon. The Dane, of course, just in front of him. Lap 3. DRS, of course, would be enabled at this point. 139.5 is the fastest lap from Zhao Zhao. He's 2.6 clear early on. Later, right on the back of Kuhn Blythe, running down the Hamilton Straight, as it's now known. Running through Abbey and then in towards Farm. Yeah, that really does divide opinion, calling it the Hamilton Straight, I've got to be honest. Laser right on the back, though, of Kuhn Blythe. Top 10, of course, for Glazer at this moment in time. Kuhn Blythe just ahead of him. And I've just realised, by the way, I'd like to throw out at this point a very big shout out to the IGK task system that, of course, provides us with this telemetry. It's got dark mode now. Have you realised that?
I mean, that's just a modern thing for technology. It has to have dark mode, but I don't dare try it, because I know in my laptop it'll probably end up breaking it if I turn dark mode on, so I'm just going to leave it in the light mode. And I think they've turned dark mode on at the Silverstone circuit at this moment in time as well. It's properly overcast, properly wet out there, but as it would be in a real Silverstone race, the grandstands are still packed. And Lando, he gets close to the back of Sorensen, but we said it's tough to overtake around the circuit, even when you've got DRS. When you haven't got it, and when you're maybe running a bit more downforce, the effect of that dirty air is so much more, he just can't find his way through on Sorensen.
Yeah, as I always say in any commentary that I do, it's one thing to get onto the back of a driver, it's another thing to overtake, and that's exactly the case with Lando. He's just holding off in terms of the EOS. It's about 76% running down in towards Stowe, but Sorensen still in second, Lando in third. Looking further down the field later, getting onto the back of Kuhn Blythe again for 9th and 10th position out on track. But Zhao Zhao currently purple middle sector out on track. He'll be hoping to try and set a new fastest lap. Dead on time, he does. 139.249 is the fastest lap, but he's 3.5 seconds clear of Sorensen. Sorensen at the minute, if he's been a wingman at this point, if there's a bit of entertaining play here in TTML, well, Zhao Zhao is just excelling out on track. Sorensen in second and Lando in third. Later still on the back. Armady now on the back as well of Dobby. Dobby, of course, in seventh, and the Scotsman Armady in eighth, as Laser tries to make a lunge down the inside, running in toward the loop, as now comes side by side coming out of entry. It's very tricky to go side by side through here in the best of times in the dry. Later, though, is just about ahead. It's a drag race now down in toward Brooklands. Kuhn Blythe on the outside line. Use up a little bit of overtake mode to try and go around the outside. Can he go around the outside? The traction is there for him. He's now on the inside line running in toward Luffield. Watch out for Scuba just in behind as well. He could try and fit his way through out on track as Laser now right on the back of Kuhn Blythe and Laser side by side on board with Scuba at this point. It's very difficult to see the cars ahead, but Laser has muscled his way ahead. The Renault ahead of the Red Bull, and Laser's through and he's into ninth. Scuba though right on the back of Kuhn Blythe, nearly going side by side. He is going to go side by side in towards Maggots and Beckett, but not going to pull off that move. No way, Jose. Laser in ninth.
Yeah, Laser just using a bit of overtake there, coming out of Luffield and Woodcut just to try and get that run on Kuhn Blythe, clearly feeling that he's been held up too much, and maybe that's where we'll see a few more moves in the race. Do see it even in the dry into the loop as well. Is Scuba going to be close enough to send one down the inside? I think in the dry, if he'd have been that close, he'd have gone for that manoeuvre. I was on board with Zhao Zhao earlier on. He is definitely pushing hard, but he had to make a minor correction as he was coming through Abbey, he's still flying out on track at this moment in time. Last lap around, he was the only driver in the 1 minute 39s, and he's 4 seconds ahead of Sorensen at the moment. Zhao Zhao, he's pretty much getting to that point where he can afford to maybe take it a tiny bit easier and just wait and see what everyone else does, because he's looking so supreme at this moment in time.
The only man in the 139s bar him is Carlsbury. Carlsbury's the only man in the 139.9s. Otherwise, he's 8 tenths quicker than the whole field on average at this stage. And that doesn't take into account the guys further down the field either. Scuba on the back of Koen Bly for 10th position. The Dutchman against the Irishman. Division 2 champion, of course, Scuba from last season. Will try and look to the lunge in toward Brooklands, but he doesn't get the move done. Down in toward Brooklands, he's going to hang tight for now. But everyone running in a bit of a, what would be called a DRS train. They're running in a bit of a slipstream train, really. I've got to be honest, in these wet conditions. And that's just bringing Zhao Zhao these lap times, I think, is a slight mistake by Volbeek just in behind and gives Mashiro a really good run. And actually, Volbeek catches the inside of Woodcut and Mashiro is clean through. That's a very easy move from Mashiro. He is through and he's into 12th position as a result of Volbeek making 2 consecutive mistakes.
Yeah, we'll see now if Mashiro can get onto the back of his teammate, because it does look as though Koen Bly is just holding up ever so slightly Scuba at the moment. You know, won't forget, obviously, a lap ago he was having a battle with Laser. Now the gap between the Renault and the Red Bull has up to a second, and Laser's got his way straight onto the back of Imad. But they are sort of mini trains going on at the moment. You've obviously got Zhao Zhao in front on his own, then you've got the next 5 cars, Dobby D and Laser sort of in one group as Zhao Zhao, I think it's fairly safe to say, is now probably the only driver in the 1 minute 38s, never mind 1 minute 39s. And this is the thing with the wet tyres, you don't get the same degradation as you would get on a set of the dry tyres, and the fuel gets lighter. So expect to see, even over the next couple of laps, maybe the times still to keep coming down, especially from Zhao Zhao. He was actually 1.1 seconds faster than Sorensen on that last lap. And if I was Lando and some of these others stuck behind, and it is forecast to stay like this for the rest of the race, even in the next couple of laps, I'd think about coming into the pitch just to get into some clear air.
Yeah, Lando right on the back of Sorensen coming through Brooklands, but 5.4 seconds is the gap out on track. It's a seriously impressive drive from Zhao Zhao at this stage. Hyper, by the way, did come into the pit lane earlier on. That's why you've seen him 30.4 seconds behind, I should say, on Volbeek. Sorensen, though, under attack from Lando, running down in towards Cops once again through the old turn 1. Sorensen through in second. Lando just taking a little bit of time to get through that corner. Just needs a little bit of time on Sorensen, but now could try and get the run through Maggots, then through Beckett's, I should say, and it's very difficult to see in terms of the camera angle. The rain is absolutely belting down off the cockpit cam here, as Lando has lost 6.5 tenths now to Sorensen, and Sorensen will stay in P2. It looks like, though, to me, Lando just made a slight mistake coming out of Chapel, and Mikras all of a sudden is right on the back of him.
Yeah, he is indeed, and this is the thing for Lando. Perhaps he knows he can't afford to just send a move down the inside, because he has got Mikras and Perpetuum so close to the back of him. And we saw with Laser and Koen Bly, it nearly allowed Scuba to have a go. All of a sudden, he got very close to the back of the Red Bull, but this is something Lando's got to think about. It looks like he's definitely being held up, especially at the earlier part of the stint. Maybe not so much now. Maybe Sorensen is just getting into things a slight bit more, but you can't follow closely behind another car anyway in Formula 1, and it's even worse in these conditions because you've got to spray to add into things. And Mikras and Perpetuum, they're probably feeling in the same boat at this moment in time. They're probably just thinking, and we need to start making our way up the field. It's just too risky for them to go for an overtake because it's such a long pit lane around here. That's not something we've spoke about. Easily 25, 26 plus seconds pit lane loss compared to everyone else staying out on track. You want this race to be a one-stop if you can.
Yeah, last lap around, Zhao Zhao 39.1, Sorensen 39.8. Seen on board with a few of the warnings as well that the guys are picking up. Perpetuum has got 2 warnings. There's also 2 warnings for Dobby and for Imad D. Dobby, of course, shown as a player 6 within the task system, but we can see, of course, he's in 7th. That is Dobby, of course. Looking further down, I don't think anybody else has actually picked up 2 warnings. So those 3 guys may be the ones to watch for the first 3-second Tombly out on track. It looks to me, though, slightly, just off that camera angle, coming through Maggots and Beckett and through Chapel, just looked to me as if the rain was starting to get a little bit lighter. But I know my eyes can deceive me quite a lot, and I think they have on this occasion once again. It is Zhao Zhao leading the way, 6.6 seconds over Sorensen. Lando in third, Mikras in fourth, Perpetuum there in fifth. Imad though on the back of Dobby, the Brit and the Scotsman about to do battle, it seems, here at Silverstone. Battle drawn here as we approach through the first third of this race here at Silverstone. Zhao Zhao leads, Sorensen second, Lando in third. Mikras looking on the back of him though.
Yeah, it's all of a sudden looking like Mikras is perhaps more likely to challenge Lando than Lando is Sorensen, and maybe that'll give Lando the hurry up that maybe he needs to try and get ahead of one Haas to make sure he doesn't get passed by another Haas. Dobby does seem to be dropping back a bit from Carlsbury all of a sudden. Carlsbury just trying to hang on to the back of his train as Laser sends one actually up the inside of Imad. Seems to like going for that move into the loop. Couldn't quite pull it off this time, but he's definitely shown his hand to Imad, who might have to defend a bit more going into that corner next time around.
I was so shocked I didn't even catch that lunge from Laser right on the back of Imad. Imad in 8th and Laser in 9th. And yeah, Laser right on the back of Imad, as you say. Dobby, though, is just ahead of him out on track. A little bit of a half spin, slightly on the traction from Laser. Just is a little bit of time compared to Imad coming out the corner. And Imad now falls away 3.5 tenths per second over Scuba in the meantime. He dropped off by 1.1 seconds on the back of Kuhn Bly, but Kuhn Bly now seems to be struggling on those tyres, and now Scuba is trying to lay up with him to try and fight. Speaking of trying to fight, Lando right on the back of Sorensen. Surely now is the time to try and get him. As soon as I say that, he's just lost 0.3 of a second, and Sorensen will remain in P2 on the run down towards Stowe. Perpetuum, though, in the meantime, right on the back of Mikras. Yeah,
he is right on the back of Mikras. They're both pretty similar with ERS at this moment in time, obviously being a lot more careful than they would be. Perpetuum's got a lot more fuel, though, than Mikras at this moment in time. He's got quite a lot more fuel, actually, than all the 4 cars ahead of him and a few of those behind him. So if he can afford to, it'll be tough when you're stuck in the air with someone else. If he can afford to, maybe just try and burn off some of that fuel, and he might be able to get the overtake done. Imad and Scuba clearly fed up of being stuck in this train. Both of them coming into the pits. I would expect it to probably be for another set of wet tyres. I definitely don't think it's dried up enough for the intermediates, and indeed it is wet on both of those. They will take them to the end. This could jump them quite a bit further up the field, but they will have defending to do later on.
Yeah, undercut is quite potent around here, though. That's what you've got to try and factor in as a driver. The undercut can be quite potent around here at Silverstone. Normally in the dry, it really can be, and it can gain you to, what, like 2 seconds a lap, I think, sometimes when you're on a set of soft compounded tyres. Obviously, these guys know that on a set of soft compounded tyres, still absolutely tipping it down out on track here in Britain. Well, it's typical British weather, isn't it? Imad in 12th, Scuba 13th. They were in clear air, and now they can push to try and get, more importantly, the fastest lap of the race short term, but try and get a jump on the likes of Zhao Zhao and Sorensen towards the top end of the field. Sorensen is in second. He's just fallen off the attention of Lando, actually, for now. And it just seems to me as if everyone is now pretty much even Stevens in terms of the pace for second down to fifth. Perpetuum is looking like the quicker guy, if I've got to be honest, in terms of the tyres. He looks like he's got a lot in him to try and get through on the likes of Mikras and the likes of Lando. First half of the race has been quite boring. Second half of the race, I can promise you, once the safety car... the safety car? Once these guys come into the pit lane, we should see a lot of overtaking, we hope. As Zhao Zhao just bangs in the new fastest lap of the race, 139.918.
I mean, that just shows you how little wear is going into these tyres at this moment in time. I mean, Zhao Zhao rear left tyres on about 29% at this moment in time, as something's happened further down the field.
Yeah, Carlsbury had a right moment coming out through Club, through turn 18. He just got caught wide on the white line, I think, on the exit of the curb. Nearly forced him towards the pit wall. Luckily, no damage on the car, and he didn't really even hit the wall or anything like that. Just a slight mistake, and he has lost a couple of tenths of a second on Perpetuum.
Yeah, he has indeed, and that's all it takes. I did say the tyres are in a good condition at this moment in time, but they will have a tiny bit of wear, and if you do hit the curb, you are probably going to find yourselves spinning around. Volbe's coming to the pits then as well, and he's going to come out a long way behind Scuba and Imad.
I've just had the weirdest camera angle. We were just morphing in towards the Racing Point pit garage there. But Volbe out in 13th. He is clear of Hyper as well. But now Lando trying to get onto the back of Sorensen once again. The sheets of rain you can see in the clouds just above these drivers' heads. 1 lap, 10 out of 26. Jaja leads, Sorensen second, Lando in third. Approaching the halfway stage at this point in time, and looking at these guys, Colbury's got no seconds penalty and 2 warnings at this stage. And just to give you a bit of an update as well, we have got the bot, of course, within the chats. If you want to check anything, the commands are there if you want to try and check that through. Jaja, though, was 8.3 seconds ahead, and he goes for another lap at least out on track, and he's looking very quick, I've got to say, within the final sector. Comes now across the line, does Jaja, and he didn't set the new fast to start the race. Sorensen, though, is still going around. Lando with third, Mick Russ in fourth, Perpetuum in fifth. Cosby in sixth. Laser now, one of the next ones to come in. Looks to me, is it or is it not, that the rain could be getting slightly lighter?
Oh, I think that's wishful thinking, if I'm being perfectly honest. Just looking at the water offline at the moment, there's a lot of standing water at many different parts of the circuit. Now, the wet tyres can cope with that fine. The intermediates, it wouldn't surprise me if they're online, if you're fine, like Glazer has done. I just worry the fact that if you go for an overtake offline, you're going to have no grip whatsoever and just find yourself sailing straight to the scene of the accident. And there's proof that the wet tyres are perfectly good at the moment. Imad setting the fastest lap of the race. He was ahead of Laser anyway. Should still come out well ahead of him as Volbeek retires in the pits.
Oh, was that in the pit lane? I thought it was the final corner. It is the final corner. Safety car out on track. Laser has just came out, fresh on the intermediates. If this rain now begins to lighten up, intermediates are going to come into play. This could be an inspired decision from Laser out on track, but safety car out. He crashed, I think, coming on the exit of Club through turn 18, coming across the lines of Volbeek out of the race. Jaja, though, out on top, Sorensen second, Lando in third. What do these guys do? As I am dead certain that this rain is just beginning to get slightly lighter out on track. Obviously, these wet tyres degrade like 75 litres of water per second, I think, out on track, and the Inters dispose of like 25-30 litres in terms of their pit stops, but it now is inspired to see whether Jaja and the likes are going to come in to the pit lane. Jaja is in, Sorensen will be in as well. No, Sorensen stays out, in fact. Lando in, Miklas in, Colsbury is staying in as well. Perpetuum stays out along with Miklas and along with Sorensen. So both Hasses actually staying out, which is quite interesting.
The only reason I could see you for staying out at this moment in time is that if it does get to intermediate conditions, and you know it's going to get to intermediate conditions, and you don't want to put a fresh set of wet tyres on, this could either be an inspired move, or you could be made to look very, very silly if you are Sorensen, Mikras, and Perpetuum at this moment in time. Imad, well, at least he hasn't lost it under the safety car, so at least that shows there is some grip on that intermediate tyres. I do just worry if he does try to make any moves and has to head offline, if he's going to really struggle on those tyres. We'll have to see, though, how this race pans out. And now that we have got the safety car and we've got some different strategies, we might get a bit more action in this final half.
I hope we do. I really hope we do. We are now pretty much halfway stage here at Silverstone. Lap 12 out of 26. Sorensen out on top. Miklas in second. Perpetuum in third at this stage. I'm imagining, I'm assuming that these guys are going to be going for a set of inters towards the end of the race. I hope nobody is listening to me in the comment section and judging their strategy off what I'm saying out on track. I'm blind as a bat normally, so don't listen to me. Listen to the engineer that these guys have got out on track. Do not listen to me. I'm just B-Tech Jeff. There we are.
I mean, I once went for I was on a set of intermediate tyres, and the in-game race director decided to bring out the safety car because it was that wet on track. And I just came in for another set of intermediates because I thought, well, if I'm going slow anyway, it'll be okay. So, yeah, don't listen to me either. I definitely don't know what tyres to go on in these conditions, but I would have expected at least one of the Haas cars to pit. Surely, in conditions like this where things are changeable, split your strategy. One of you come in and put a set on the wet tyres on, one of you stay out, because you were so close to the front of the field. What might be interesting to see now, when the safety car does come in, how can Zhao, Lando, Carlsbury and the rest get through the traffic, and how much was Lando being held up by Sorensen?
Yeah, Sorensen and Mikras stay out for another lap, so does Perpetuum, so that is literally signed, sealed and delivered. They're going for that intermediate tyres out on track. Sorensen, Mikras, Perpetuum, first, second and third. Look at the rain skirts going across the track. You can see visibly the rain skirts, the rain falling across. Looking at the pit window, though, what just came up? Open, one-stop strategy, intermediates? Surely not.
I mean, are you trusting AWS?
No. That's the one word answer. No. Do not trust the AWS graphics. But I have got to say, rain is getting lighter. I've got to be honest. I think the rain is getting lighter still.
I think we're at a similar intensity of rain. I think what might... Just when you look at the spray, it maybe looks a tiny bit lighter because obviously they're travelling at so reduced speed at this moment in time. That is a pretty fast Mercedes safety car, as I now get a pit window sign for everyone off the full wet tyres, kind of proving the point about whether you should trust the AWS or not. Laser, he was going at a pretty decent pace to try and catch up to the safety car, but he wasn't going all out. So he's going to be the one everyone is going to be keeping an eye on to see what he can do on his set of intermediates. And maybe for him it will just be about surviving for the first 2 laps and then waiting until it does get maybe towards intermediate conditions. And if it is going to go towards intermediates, this safety car obviously just pushes that a bit earlier on into the race and maybe makes it a bit more of a viable strategy. Whereas if we say originally it was only going to get drier for the final 3 or 4 laps, it would have probably been worth staying out on the wet tyres.
Yeah, looking at the weather conditions as well out on track, just reading on the task system, air temperature still 21, track temperature still 24 degrees. Out on track, so there's been no change in terms of the weather conditions, in terms of the temperature certainly out on track. But this is it. We should get the safety car with the safety car coming in about any second now. Perfect. Pretty much. Sorensen now, the virtual Burton Marlander out on track. Now, I have a feeling Sorensen actually is not going to hang around with this restart because Mick Glass is behind him, Perpetuum's behind him, and they'll be hoping to try and get Zhao as much as possible towards the lead of this race. Let's hope that the guys don't let them through, but Perpetuum will be hoping to try and back off on the back of Zhao. But now we're about to get underway. The second half of the race about to begin. Who knows what is going to happen in the second half of the race here in Britain. Myself and Luke Etheridge taking you through the action, of course, as we are just about to get underneath the safety car restart as Mashiro and I'm a D have got a penalty as well as Dobby. Dobby's picked up a penalty as well. But now we're back underway and it's all sorts of carnage, I think, in behind as Mashiro was into the pit lane and Kumbly has dropped a few positions as well. But now Sorensen through the final corner and now he gets back underway. We're back at racing. Green flag racing fights out the final couple of corners. Full wet tyres, it says, for Sorensen on the right-hand side. But we're back underway. Sorensen leads. Mick Glass in second. Zhao already on the back of last season's champion. Zhao right on the back, but Perpetuum sends it down the inside in towards the village. Can't get the car stopped. Yes, he can. The German is through and he's into second position. Sorensen really losing, and it's side by side in the background. Lando and Carlsbury going side by side, and Lando gets the move done, passing Carlsbury, and he's into fifth position. Zhao right on the back of Perpetuum though, running down the Wellington straight once again. Sorensen out on front, Perpetuum in second, Mick Glass in third, and Mick Glass is the one. Oh, and there's nearly carnage in behind Lando. Nearly goes into the back of Zhao. Carlsbury nearly went into the back of him as well. That could have easily ended in tears for all three of them possibly, but somehow they remain in the same position. Carlsbury though looks really up for this.
Yeah, does it look like Lando was being held up here earlier on? All of a sudden now he's got Carlsbury alongside him. Zhao up ahead, gets ahead of Mick Glass. Carlsbury's just trying to keep his nose in there, coming on the run down towards Beckett and Chapel, but he is going to have to give up in the end, and that's crucial for Zhao that he's made his way through and Lando's too busy battling with Carlsbury at this moment in time. I'll tell you something, in the TAS system at this moment it says storm conditions, which I think says it all what you need to know. I think we're pretty much at the heaviest rain you can get on this game. And look at Laser, he's 4 seconds off the back of the field. Those intermediate tyres are the wrong choice. This is full wets towards the end, and I think Sorensen, Perpetuum and Mick Glass have just made the wrong choice.
Yeah, Sorensen out on top, Perpetuum in second, Zhao in third, but it could be the case where, of course, Laser has decided to take these intermediate companion tyres because it is going to get dry toward the end of the race. Don't rule that out. The final 5 or 6 laps could be very crucial in terms of that. He is losing time now. Once all tyres get up to temperature, and we're not too far off, I've got to say, that in terms of the wets to the hards, the delta time between the tyres, I don't think. Obviously, he's losing time at this point, but he's only losing time by, I would say, about a second a lap, maybe more than that, slightly. But it's not too far off the delta period, and one lesson in the rain could change it all. Hyper right on the back of Scuba, further down the field, he doesn't get close enough coming out of Aintree. Zhao right on the back of Perpetuum, not close enough down in toward Brooklands. Sorensen leads the way still. Perpetuum in second, Zhao in third, Mick Glass in fourth, Lando in fifth position. Halsbury, Dobby, Kumbly, D, and then Scuba ran off the top 10. Looking on board with the penalties as well. Dobby picked up a 3-second penalty, I think, underneath the safety car. Armin D has got a 5-second penalty as well for speeding into the pit lane. In fact, he had a collision, of course, with Mashiro. Mashiro was already been into the pits, and he's already served up his 5-second penalty.
Yeah, yes, Mashiro obviously choosing to put wet tyres on as well, which is quite interesting. Laser, I think he struggled a bit more on the first lap, but he's doing slightly better on this one. Only looks to have lost about a second so far on this lap, so maybe we aren't too far away now that he has got the intermediates up to temperature. But the wet tyres, as you said, they get rid of a bit more water and they might give you a bit more confidence that you can push that bit harder, especially if you are forced to go offline as well. These on the four wets, on the older set of four wets I should say, are still doing a pretty good job at the moment. I'd have expected them to be dropping down the field a bit more, and I'm just going to look at what tyre wear they are on. We've only just seen Sorensen's only just hit 40%. If he really wanted to, they could try and push this to the end of the race. He'll be at risk of a puncture, but it is possible.
Perpetuum 3-second penalty coming through. Abbey on the exit of Farms. Sorensen now leading the way. Perpetuum with that 3-second time penalty in second. Jiao tries to launch an attack though. The Dane against the German for second and third positions. These two very good rivals, of course, last season in Division 1. But now Jiao, as we ride on board, we can see the spray. It's still very difficult to see in terms of these guys out on track. Perpetuum in second. Jiao looks to the inside line. Doesn't quite get the move done down towards Brooklands, but Sorensen leading the way. Perpetuum in second. Jiao in third. But yeah, Sorensen 41% on that rear left tyre. His front tyres actually, his front right's looking the best out of the whole lot, 32%, but we have seen that so far last season, where I think it was Amazing Hour in Austria, if I'm not mistaken, had his tyre, his front right tyre, been the less compounded tyre, and that's the tyre he actually got a puncture on.
And we had Bullet Boy, I think, at Spain, hitting 90% on some of his tyres, and they didn't get a puncture. That's the thing, once you get above 75%, it is a lottery, and you never know whether it's going to go, and you've got to decide yourself, is it worth me taking the risk, going for what could be a possible victory here for Sorensen, versus maybe a certain picking up a safe couple of points. Further down the back of the field, Hyper is looking pretty close for the back of Scuba, just can't get alongside on the way into Stone, with that not really being a heavy braking zone, and especially not fast during these conditions. He decides to just stay behind in the end. Is lap 16 of this race. Laser, he's still going around on the intermediates, and he's not looking too bad, but he was last time around about 1.5 seconds slower than our race leader, but it does seem to be decreasing ever so slightly. It's just whether it's going to decrease enough. It doesn't look like the rain is slowing too much at the moment, and still offline you can see a lot of standing water.
Oh, Lando's launched it on Mick Rass down the inside, gets the move done. Brilliant stuff by Lando. It's still nearly side by side, but Lando is through down the inside line. That was a dive bomb and a half from Lando. Ruthless aggression from him out on track, and the Brit is through, and he's into fourth position on the back of the Dane. Lando through. Jiao was on the back of Perpetuum as well. I thought he was going to actually launch it on the back of Perpetuum, but it is going to get to desperation point, I think, for some of these guys, because if these tyres, if these conditions actually stay the same as they are right now, we're going to have the full race in full wet conditions, and there's going to be desperation towards the end of the lap, because Jiao will be hoping to try and get past Perpetuum as soon as possible, ideally. He's on 4-lap tyres. Perpetuum's on 16-lap old tyres, and it's almost as if these conditions and these tyres, the older tyres especially, are nullifying those guys further down the field who are on fresher tyres to try and make any progress.
Yeah, we see this quite often with the wet tyres, and to a lesser extent the intermediates. They don't degrade anywhere near in the same way as the dry tyres. They seem to fall off a cliff a bit more as they get towards the end of their life, but a lot slower degradation when they're at the sub 60% point, which they are at the moment. Hyper now picks up a 3-second penalty, and as long as Perpetuum drives pretty clean, we've seen it's looking extremely hard to get any overtakes done, and you have got to go for that dive into the loop. Looks like the main overtaking point at the moment.
Laser's only lost about 1.2, 1.3 seconds. Goodness me, Perpetuum nearly lost it coming out of in towards Village there for Perpetuum in second. Jiao in third. Jiao sends it down the inside. Can he try and get the move done? More ruthless aggression out on track. A little bit of damage, I think, there. Maybe from Jiao. We saw a little bit of front wing fly off. I'm not sure if that was the case. But now Lando right on the back of Jiao. Jiao right on the back of Perpetuum. Gonna lunge it down the inside line. Jiao wants this move. He's nearly forced to the inside line. And that's what you get if you force to the inside line. You pick up a 3-second time, but I think Perpetuum had right away the corner. He defended it well. Jojo on the inside line didn't really give himself enough room, and he picked up that 3-second time penalty, and Lando right on the back of him. The brace against the Dane for third. Sorensen, though, all of this battling with Perpetuum now beginning to drop into the clutches of Jojo and Lando. It's letting Sorensen get away, and Sorensen, if this was dry compound tyres, he would be out of DRS range pretty much at this point.
Yeah, and Sorensen, he doesn't even have a warning yet. Never mind a penalty, he's got no warnings. He's not looking too bad all of a sudden. We saw Zhao Zhao go for that move. I don't know why he went so far wide of Perpetuum's car coming through Brooklands, because it was easy. He was easily 4 wheels off the track, and it was a slam dunk decision for the in-game stewards to give him that additional warning and that penalty. And now Perpetuum's probably going to be wise to that move. I always feel like it's one you've got to try and get done, because the driver ahead, Perpetuum might just go a bit more for a defensive line. Whether that'll leave him vulnerable again coming down the Wellington Straight into Brooklands, I'm not quite so sure. But looking at Perpetuum's time, that's that, 1:39.5. Those 4 wet tyres are hanging on beautifully at this moment in time. 8 laps to go in this race. I do think we are now going to see full wets towards the end, unless the rain dramatically decreases in the next lap or two, and Zhao Zhao does get close to Perpetuum, but can't do it on this occasion. I'm wondering, can Sorensen make the no-stop strategy work?
6 tenths of a second, he has got everything in his advantage at this point, but the guys behind him have got penalties. Perpetuum, Jojo and Lando, all 3-second time penalties. Dobby has got a 3-second time penalty. Armadi's got 8, and Hyper has got 3 as well. Laser is losing time considerably to the likes of Hyper, just ahead of him. Of course, he's on a set of intermediate compound of tyres. But Sorensen out there leading the way. Zhao Zhao, though, looking towards the inside of Cops as he now gets right onto the back of Perpetuum. Right on board with him there. About 67% of ERS there for Zhao Zhao. He now comes through. Unless I'm blind, that might be actually more for ERS for Zhao Zhao. He's right on the back of the German in second, Zhao Zhao in third. Looks like Zhao Zhao maybe just lost a little bit of confidence to try and get the better traction coming through Maggots and Beckett's on the exit there. And in terms of his EOS actually out on track, it's about 70% for Zhao Zhao at this stage. Perpetuum on about 48, and the same for Sorensen as well. So Zhao Zhao in the hot seat at the minute in terms of the EOS. Looking further down the field though, in fact, Kuhn Bly, he's out in 8th. He's in the battle for the lead almost as well. He's got 80% of EOS.
Yeah, I don't think there's too much point having that high all of a sudden. You might as well get rid of a bit and use as much as you can on each lap. Obviously, you're not wanting to fire it out the corners in these conditions, because that extra 150 brake horsepower becomes a death trap pretty much in these conditions. But you want to make sure that you've always got a bit of spare space to put back into the battery. Otherwise, it's just a waste of energy, really. But Kuhn Bly's definitely got plenty to spare. He's actually just hit 100 there, so I won't be surprised if he blasts a bit down the Wellington Straight to try and catch back up to Dobby. He's not looking too bad at the moment. Mikros and Carlsbury as well, without any penalties. If they can stay in contact, they know they've got a podium on their hands.
They have indeed, yeah. Dobby, of course, getting the penalty. Armadi with the penalty as well, around the likes of Kuhn Bly and the likes of the Scuba as well. He's not entirely out of this. Hyper looking quite quick as well. Speaking of quick, they're running down the straight, down in towards Cops. Jaja right on the back of Perpetuum, and he's now 0.3 of a second breathing down Perpetuum's neck at this stage. It could come down to the no-stop strategy against the one-stop, and it looks to me as if the no-stop might be the one to be on at this stage, because Sorensen and Perpetuum have still only got, in terms of the wear on those tyres, they've only got, for Perpetuum, 57%. Sorensen has only reached 53% out on track, so it really comes to show that the tyre wear around here really lasts, and Sorensen has been absolute minute, about 2-3% in terms of the tyre wear, of course, around this track in a set of wet compound tyres. But Sorensen leads on towards the final 6 laps of this race. Sorensen will lead, Perpetuum in second, Zhao Zhao in third. Top 11 in pretty much a DRS train it would be for the lead of this race. But Zhao Zhao on the back of Perpetuum, looking to try and get the move done. Makes a slight mistake coming out of Abbey. Could let Lando possibly into play, running in towards Village. Not close enough, although he's very late on the brakes, Lando.
Yeah, he is indeed. I think he is trying to line it up. We saw him have a go earlier, and Zhao Zhao there almost taps the back on.
Contact.
Perpetuum, thankfully for him, he hasn't got any damage, but that's twice now. He's made contact with the back of Mercedes and got away with it both times, and you do not want to lose any downforce in these conditions. That just means Perpetuum stays safe from Zhao Zhao. Zhao Zhao wasn't... Well, Lando wasn't close enough to Zhao Zhao to go for the overtake on that occasion. If anything, Mikras is just dropping back ever so slightly. That gap nearly getting up to about a second between him and the back of Lando, and he does look a bit lower on ERS than some of the other drivers, only by a few percent. Zhao Zhao very close to the back of Perpetuum through Corps, but that move's not going to work, and you can see now he's dropped back a bit. He needs to somehow just try and make sure he can get a better exit through Chapel, but we're pretty much on rails at the moment because of how wet it is offline.
Yeah, Sorensen 7/10 of a second, and he's doing a fantastic job. Out on track with 5.5 laps to go. By the way, I just thought I'd mention something got beat tonight, Mr. Etheridge. There we are. Terrible. Sorensen leading the way, Perpetuum second, Zhao in third, Lando fourth, Mikras in fifth, Cosby in sixth, Cosby though right on the back of Mikras, 4/10 per second, the Finn right on the back of the Dane, just in front. The old Scandinavians are going to be fighting out for position, for fifth position, and Mikras looks like he's got the more worn tyres compared to these guys who are trying to do this non-stop strategy, and it could come back to bite him because Carlsbury is quicker at this stage, and surely he's going to have a look at Mikras in the final couple of laps, and it could be down in towards the village section. He looks to the inside line, doesn't get the move done though.
No, he doesn't. He stays behind. I was just on board with Perpetuum, and he was a lot wiser to that inside line move through the loop on Zhao Zhao, but that compromises your exit, and now he's having to go slightly defensive into Brooklands. This is going to be a late move from Zhao Zhao down the inside. There's a bit of wheel banging between the two of them. Has he got the move done? There's big contact between them. That's pushed Zhao Zhao very wide. Perpetuum's still hanging on in there. Lando might be better off just hanging back here, trying to get a better exit. Perpetuum's had a nightmare run through there, and this is Lando's chance to try and get along the inside. They're both going to be using their ERS, and I think that's Zhao Zhao up into second. Perpetuum stays in third. Lando has to stay in fourth position, but now that Zhao Zhao's free, can he challenge Sorensen?
Yeah, to an extent, I've got to be honest, Jajo just completely shut the door on Perpetuum. You said you're not coming back through. Jajo had right away the corner. He was nearly a full car length ahead. So in my eyes, Jajo got that move done, I think, cleanly. Out on track, a bit of wheel banging. Nothing more, nothing less in Formula 1. Lando right on the back of Perpetuum as we approach the final couple of laps in this race. 4 more to go as Hyper and Scuba all of a sudden get battered, and Hyper's round. Hyper, I think, tried to go down the inside through Stowe. Didn't really catch the end of that, but Hyper has spun, and now he's through, and he's in 11th position, and down he goes through the field. And it looked like, to me, I'm not saying it was his fault, it looked like he might have just been trying to force the move on Scuba, who was ahead of him.
Yeah, possibly just trying to make that work. We've seen already it's very hard to do a move around here without any contact, and I think a sign which shows that maybe the rain is lightening up a tiny bit.
Sorry, down the inside, Lando's absolutely dived it again into all the village section. Oh, and he forces Perpetuum off. Goodness me. Oh, and there's all sorts of carnage. Mikras is round as well. And Needy collects Armour D and all of that as well. Jaja, though, for the race lead. Down the inside, through into Brooklands he goes. I think Sorensen just let him through to an extent. Jaja through, and he's into the lead of the race. Sorensen in second, Cosby in third, Lando in fourth. Lando, not sure if he got a bit of oversteer, but Perpetuum has had an absolute nightmare this second half of the race. And that probably will definitely go to the Scuba now, right on the back of Dobby. And Armour D, I think, has just got through on Dobby, in fact, as well.
Yeah, he has done indeed, and Scuba's looking very close. In fact, for Lando's sake, I hope he had a bit of wheel spin there, because I'm going to be honest, from the angle I had, it didn't look too good. It did look as though he was almost turning right into Perfection. We know the contact model can do strange things on that game, but now that Zhao Zhao's got away from Sorensen, he's absolutely flying away. Last time around, Sorensen set his fastest lap of the race, and it still wasn't enough to stop Zhao Zhao just flying up to the back of him and getting past him. If he shows the pace he did earlier on, he could well find the extra 2 seconds that he needs in the final 3 laps of this race to take the victory. And Mikras, though, you've got to feel sorry for him. Big front wing damage, just a completely innocent party for that. Can he now hang on to that 11th place?
Yeah, and Hyper actually working out with that spin he had earlier on. He's now into the top 10, so the German will be hoping for a really good result. Yes, he's 6.5 seconds off the back, but you never know, he could catch before the end of this race. Judging by these guys out on track, Scuba right on the back, Dobby, that's a brilliant run through Abbey. Down the inside, the Irishman goes on the Brit. It's a shocking camera angle, but Scuba gets the move done. Down the inside into Old Village, great stuff by the Irishman. Signed, sealed and delivered, and he's into 8th. Really good move, that.
Yeah, well, like I think that's happened there is Dobby. I wonder if he's made a slight bit of mistake, because it's very strange to see one car get such a good run especially through farm into village there. But fantastic driving from Scuba down the inside, a lot of confidence. He takes 8th place. He's got no penalties as well, so if he stays on the back of Amadee and Perpetuum, he's getting ahead of him, and he might even, depending on how the gaps go, have a slim chance of closing up to Lando. Zhao Zhao streaking away at the front of this field, but it looks like Sorensen and Carlsbury are going to get podiums. The question is, though, for Sorensen, Perpetuum and Mikras, will their tyres hold on? I'm just going to have a quick look at what it is at the moment. 64 is the worst tyre for Sorensen, 69 for the front left on Perpetuum. He needs to be careful, and 72 for Mikras's front left tyre, so those two might just be at risk from either punctures or getting swamped in the final 3 laps.
Yeah, well, Mikras is down in the 11th position, 3.2 seconds he's losing. Now on the back of Hyper, of course, he's got damage on that car as well, so will not help him at all. In the meantime, Amadee on the back of Perpetuum, the German under pressure here in his first race back. Jaja just bangs in a new fastest lap at 1:37.4. Where did that come from? 2.5 seconds now the gap over Sorensen. Carlsbury in 3rd, Lando in 4th. Everyone now spread out like your mum's washing line as Jaja leads the way. Sorensen 2nd, Carlsbury in 3rd. Amadee, Scuba now getting onto the back. Scuba, all of a sudden, he's came into this race. He's looking mightily quick in the final couple of laps.
Yeah, he is. He's kept it nice and clean so far. He's looking pretty good. Perpetuum, I don't think Perpetuum has any front wing damage. I'll just have a quick check of the TAS system. He's got some very minor front wing damage, but I don't think it will be doing anything to really affect his performance. 6% at this moment in time. But yeah, all of a sudden, Scuba looking very quick on the back of Amadee, on the back of Perpetuum, but he knows he doesn't really have to pass any of them. What could be an interesting battle, Carlsbury has just got within a second of Sorensen. Can he use the 12-lap fresher tyres to maybe get himself a 2nd position?
Yeah, he's got to. The Finn right on the back of the Dane, but Jaja leads the way. 3.5 seconds the gap. I would say it's been a dominant drive, but it really hasn't. He's been caught up in that wash of the slipstream train, and he's really struggled to try and get through. When he made the moves, though, he made it stick, and he's now 3.7 seconds clear and on course for a race win out on track. He's got 3 seconds worth of penalties at this moment in time. Sorensen and Carlsbury as well have not got penalties, but Jaja was only going to pull away, and Sorensen will be hoping to try and play wingman now to Jaja, was Carlsbury now right on the back. In the final lap of the race, I've got to say, still the rain for absolutely teeming down here. 37.3 from Jaja, new fastest lap of the race. But here comes Carlsbury, hunting him down. Sorensen is going to be under pressure here at this stage. Is he going to be like Thomas Sorensen, the former Sunderland goalkeeper, the Dane, as he now comes in P2. Carlsbury in P3, but Carlsbury right on the back of him. I'm sure plenty of people are now going to be Googling who Sorensen was, the Sunderland goalkeeper. Jajao leading the way, Sorensen 2nd, Carlsbury in 3rd. But I don't think Carlsbury is close enough down in towards Brooklyn, certainly. I think one more chance, probably down in towards Stowe.
The problem is with Carlsbury, and I noticed he had that red fuel light flashing, which says 1 lap of fuel. That was flashing as he was coming out of Stowe last lap around. He's really low on fuel, and he's just had to drive round in lean the entire lap so far to try and get himself back to a standard level, and that might be what costs him all of a sudden here. Zhao Zhao looks clear as long as he keeps it clean, as long as he keeps it nice and tidy. Mashiro went for another pit stop to try and get the fastest lap of the race and get that bonus point that is available for all of the drivers, obviously, that finished the race. I don't think Carlsbury's going to get... I don't think he can afford to use a lot of fuel, and they're both very similar on ERS. I don't think he's going to be close enough. I think what I can say with a lot of certainty, though, is that Zhao Zhao's driven a fantastic race and looks to be taking the victory.
Yeah, Zhao Zhao making a stake in claim, coming through the final couple of corners, through Vale and in towards Club for the final time. The Dane is going to excel out on track. Zhao Zhao takes a very wet British Grand Prix, bangs in the new fastest lap of the race to boot as well. Sorensen across the line, hangs on for 2nd. Really good drive from him. Carlsbury across the line in 3rd. Kumbla in 4th. Lando in 5th. There's all sorts of carnage going on with the AI. Scooper in 6th. Perpetuum in 7th. Goodness me. W in 8th. Amadee in 9th. Hyper, in fact, up into 9th with Amadee's penalty. Mikras, what could have been for him? He's got right side end plate damage on that car. He's about to come across the line to finish in 11th. In the end, Laser was actually catching towards the end of the race, and he comes across the line in 12th. I really hope he didn't do my B-Tech Jeff strategy, and another big crash there from the AIs. Mashiro now comes around the final couple of corners. We'll see in terms of his lap time how he's getting on out on track. Is he going to go for the fastest lap of the race? Let's find out, because at this moment in time, I'm just trying to see actually with his lap. I can't see his fastest lap at this stage. Mashivo, 202.9, obviously came into the pit lane. Now, through the middle sector, through the final sector, through the final couple of corners, Mashivo ran the final couple of corners. Is he going to steal it from Jiao? No. And that's just a scene of utter devastation coming across the line. Mashivo in 13th position, but your winner, out on track, brilliant drive from Jiao.
Yeah, fantastic job. He was one of the few that managed to get his way through the field, went for that pit stop. In the end, because of the safety car, you could make the no-stop work. I think as we saw in the final few laps, Sorensen, Perpetuum, we couldn't tell with Mikras because he had the front wing damage. Their grip had just gone, and another couple of laps we might have seen Carlsbury get ahead of Sorensen. Brilliant job, though, by Jiao. Powell win, fastest lap, 33 points out of a possible 33 from this race, and all the other drivers will be hoping that he doesn't carry on that form. I think, though, in the nicest possible way, this race has dispelled the myth that wet races are always interesting. It's interesting when it's changeable weather, but I think if it wasn't for that safety car, it would have been an even more straightforward victory for Jiao.
Yeah, would have been Jiao in control pretty much the whole way through, and he takes the win out on track. Sorensen actually makes it a 1-2 for the Danes for IFR in the Haas in second. Carlsbury in third, really good result from him. The Finn, all Scandinavian podium. When's the last time we had that in TTML? Kuhnblai in fourth, Lando in fifth, Scuba in sixth. Good drive from him on his Division 1 debut. Perpetuum in seventh with Dobby in eighth, Hyper in ninth, Imadi in 10th, Mikras 11th, Laser in 12th, Mashiro ending off in 13th position, only 600th of a second off that fastest lap in the end. Volbeek, the only man to DNF out on track, but Jiao takes the win. Sorensen second, Carlsbury in third. Shall we get the top three in?
Yeah, we'll try and get them in, see what they think about that race, see about the different thoughts with their strategies as well. I mean, at the time, we were saying, oh, this is a bit of a silly idea to stay out on track. But obviously, because of the safety car, you're doing a lot with used speed. And all of a sudden, as the fuel was coming down, it became clear that no one was really at risk of punctures during the end. So they did a fantastic job on the tyre management, and especially the pace as well. Sorensen, I think, set his fastest lap of the race on the last lap of the race.
Which is absolutely unbelievable. And it comes to show, in terms of the tyre wear, how much they had in reserve, really, out on track. Just seeing in the Discord as well, Lando apologising to Perpetuum. He couldn't do anything, he says. He was turning fully left, but the tyres interlocked. So obviously coming down to the damage system, to the contact model system on this game, rather than anything else, it seems. Laser also commenting and saying, Bottle thought it would dry like it did on Thursday. Of course, Thursday being in division, in one of his other races, I think, in another league. Laser saying, though, Inters felt okay, they were just slow. Well, they were only second and a half slower, pretty much on average, throughout a lap, which wasn't too slow at all. And I always thought there was going to be a delta point, there was going to be a turnover period. If anybody decided to listen to me, and if anybody wants my tips, don't listen to me going forward. If Laser did listen, I'm sorry.
I think it was maybe just trying something different when you're a bit further down the field. I think I might as well go for this. In the end, it probably did cost him one or two places, but you saw he was only about 1 or 2 seconds off. It just never improved, and I find that about the intermediate tyres. They're not a bad tyre. They struggle a bit more in the dry conditions, understandably, but they can go to quite a severe level of wet weather. It's just if he'd have gone offline to do any overtakes, there'd have been standing water there, and he'd have probably just aquaplaned straight into the side of whoever he was trying to overtake.
Yeah, and that's the whole part and parcel, really, of that race. And speaking of the race, we have got our race winner in the party with us. It is Mr. IFR _Jiao. And Jiao, I tipped you up for the championship before the stream. That's a pretty good start, isn't it?
Yeah, maximum points, not too bad.
Not too bad at all, but just talk us through that race, because obviously with a full wet race, were you expecting it to be full wet throughout the race?
I mean, with Britain, there's always a big chance for rain, so I mean, I didn't expect it. I always expect dry weather, but yeah, I was quite happy when I saw what it was with wet, because I'm always pretty good in the wet, so
Yeah, I think I called you the king of the starts out on track, and you certainly lived up to that name. What was it like just pulling away from those guys in front in the earlier laps? I think you were like something like 9 seconds ahead before the safety car.
Yeah, we were talking a lot about the possibility of doing a one-stop. So I was really unsure about whether I should just drive away or I should try and save my tires for a bit. But then Jeff started to say something about maybe there was a chance of intermediates later in the race, and then I just started pushing a little bit to try get a gap and gamble a little bit in that way. But then the safety car came, and I was again. I got into the pit stop or in the pit to get the fresh tires because I knew the wet tires would be pretty bad at the end, and was hoping that other people would follow me in the pits, which they did, so I didn't lose so many positions, which was great. And then it was just about trying to get past the people in front, which I succeeded with in the end.
You did succeed indeed. Yeah, it was fantastic to watch, of course, out on track. Just talk us through that, though, that one-stop strategy, that call. Did you ever think for one moment that you weren't going to get past?
Yeah, when I was on lap 20 or something, I was still behind Perpetuum. And I was getting a little worried, but then I was in the party with IFR Sørensen, so he said that his tires were pretty bad. So I knew that, and I could see that Perpetuum was starting to slide. So yeah, then he was going defensive, and when he did that, I knew he was gonna be vulnerable on the straight. So I was pretty confident in making the move. Yeah, and then Sørensen's tires was also pretty bad, so I got past him because he also got an oversteer. And then it was just trying to get the gap so I could win with the 3 seconds penalty.
Well, it was more than 3 seconds in the end. I think it was never in doubt from when you got past those guys, to be honest, that were around you, including Sorensen, who's in the party. I'll come on to Luke. Are you going to ask him any questions?
Yeah, fantastic performance from yourself today, Zhao Zhao, at a track where there's quite a few corners that require high downforce and wet conditions are a possibility. Next time out, it's Japan. Quite a lot of corners require high downforce, especially the S's, and rain's always a possibility. You must be feeling very confident after today's performance.
Yeah, but I'm not sure I can make the race. So yeah, but if I can, it's a track I like a lot. So yeah.
And well, that's my only question then, James.
That's your only question. I think that concludes Jaja's interview. Jaja, go and enjoy your evening.
Thank you.
And we'll now move on to his IFR teammate, of course, finishing in P2, the Dane, IFR Sorensen. And Sorensen, your debut race here in Division 1 couldn't have gone any better?
No, not really. You know, I did not know any of the driver's pace, only Jojo and Mikras. So, yeah, I didn't really have any expectations. So, starting in TTML with a P2, yeah, it feels really good.
Yeah, it's fantastic to have a P2, of course, out on track. And I tipped you up as being one of our guys to watch in TTML. Yeah, this was before the stream. So I'm really impressed that I've got the 1-2 tonight. So, yeah, clap for me, everyone in the comment section. My absolute prowess in terms of predicting some good results out on track. But talking about your race, Sorensen, a fantastic performance from you. In terms of those tyres, did you always feel that the no-stop strategy was going to work for you?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really know that the one-stop strategy is going to work because, yeah, I don't know, but Mikras said that to me that you can do a zero stop, so I did that. And yeah, it took a few laps to get confident because I'm not really comfortable on rain, in rain. So yeah, really happy.
You must be the dry specialist then in IFR, because Jajo seems to be the wet specialist. You've got to be the dry specialist then, surely.
I mean, Jojo is really fast in dry as well, so I don't think so.
Yeah, it's a fantastic result from you, though. I'll throw you over to Luke. I'm sure he's got a few questions.
Yeah, congratulations. Fantastic performance from yourself, Sorensen. You
Thank
seem
you.
to be able to manage your tyres better than anyone else, which was crucial towards the end of the race. Is that just something that you've always been very good at, or do you think it was something different with your setup maybe that gave you that advantage?
I mean, I'm often quite good at managing the tires and save the tires a bit. So yeah, that was really crucial at the end because the tires felt really bad. Yeah.
And similar to what I asked Zhao, Japan, another circuit where you can see some rain and a few corners have similarities, obviously, with the circuit here at Silverstone. Are you feeling good heading into the next round?
Yeah, I really like Japan, but I don't hope that is gonna be red. I hope it's the dry race. So yeah. But yeah, I'm quite confident on Japan.
Well, I think you've got every reason to be confident after that performance. I'll hand you back over to James.
Yeah, go and enjoy your evening, Sorensen. You deserve it.
Thank you, and thanks for the commentary.
You're very welcome. Plenty more where that came from, of course. And that is the end for TTML Division 1 here tonight. Thank you very much to all of you for tuning in to the action. I'm sure you enjoyed the racing, however boring the first half was. The second half certainly made up for it slightly. But hopefully Japan, of course, will be a better track to have a lot of overtaking on. DRS trains galore, a lot of overtaking opportunities as well around that track. And it's a pity that he wasn't racing this season, but Chapelelli, he pulled off his best move, and the best move I've ever seen around Japan. 3 wide, around the outside into the Dunlop curve. That's all I'm saying. But, you never know, we might experience that next week, wouldn't we, Lou? That'd be nice.
It would be absolutely delightful. I hope it stays dry at Japan. It's another one of those circuits where overtaking, I think, is tough enough anyway with only one DRS zone. If it gets wet, it is going to be extremely difficult, but it is one of those circuits, if you get it slightly wrong, there's a lot of gravel traps in Japan. It is going to be crucial that you keep it in between the white lines next time around, otherwise you will be punished with a lot more than a warning or a 3-second time penalty.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating, of course, to see how all of this is going to unfold. Again, I'll cross you back over to Luke, who I'm sure is going to take you through his final thoughts and his drive of the day.
Driver of the day, I think there's only one person I could go for. When someone gets the hat-trick of Powell, fastest lap and victory, Zhao, he sent a message to everyone else. We knew he was good at the end of last season, but that is, I think, by far the most dominant race in Division 1 of TTML I've ever commentated on.
Yeah, really dominant drive. Again, from Zhao. Does that set the precedent for what we've got to come? I don't think so. I think we're going to see these guys closer than ever when we get to the first dry race of the season, hopefully next week, of course, in Japan. Please stay safe, though, in this crazy world that we all live in. We will be back next week, of course, for Japan, but until then, I've been James Head.
I've been Luke Etheridge.
Thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, goodbye.
Dreams. Our childhood dreams. Feeling. I feel so lightweight when I think back to those days. But then we went our own ways. I'm thinking about what needs to change. That we can turn back the page and live like our favorite fairy tales. So a love so freeing, but what of our fantasies? Digging up treasures and sailing across the sea. These are our childhood dreams. It's how we used to be when we were kings and queens in our childhood dreams. Oh, 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 oh. childhood dreams. Our childhood dreams. Our childhood dreams. These are childhood dreams. It's how it used to be. When we were kings and queens in our childhood dreams.
Every weekend is the same. I'm the one you try to claim. Yeah, I already know about your game, but I'm not the one to sit around and be played. Call me up with no shame. All your words sound the same. Yeah, I already know about your game, but I'm not the one to sit around and be played. If you come around just to play me,